Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today we're in the home studio. I'm on the Skype, so I've got made a little bit of a Hail Mary call. When things don't go the way you plan them, and plans change, and you need a buddy to help you out, I get on the Matt phone, and I call up Matt Grant from Blue Bantha Milk Co. How you going, man?
Yeah, good, man. That's a good pun. That was a really good pun.
Oh yeah, I've been working on that all week.
Yeah. And also, hooray for being default. That's amazing.
Well, we're just saying off air that I'd actually been away on the weekend, and I had a bunch of relatives and things. I won't go into the details of why they were all there and stuff, but a whole bunch of my cousins were there, and a few who'd been on before, and others I want to get on, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to have everybody. I'm going to be able to stick the mic in people's faces. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to get so much content, and it just didn't happen. People were busy and distracted and had other things, and it was such a bummer. There's a lot of like, yeah, let's do it. I'll come around another time and do it, but I came up short, unfortunately, and I was going, oh, maybe I just won't put anything out. And then I had a bit of an interesting week last week, and I thought, Matt's the man. Let's see what he's doing. So it quickly sort of happened over Twitter the other day, didn't it?
Yeah, from what I was seeing, you were having a bit of an episode, is how I would describe it.
Yeah,
it's something you don't normally have an episode of.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second. But just as a prefix, this is that Kat, my partner's gone out for dinner tonight, and I've got the two monitors here next to the recording thing. And right now, I'm walking around with a loaded gun here. And right now, actually, I'm looking at my daughter, and she's Sloan. She's actually crying out. The monitor's come on, but she has her dummy in her mouth. So
that's good.
You don't do anything. You sit back and you wait.
I don't have kids, so I don't know.
Well, whatever the cats do, mate.
Well, I don't know. Do your kids climb into weird enclosed boxes and take a crap, or are they still doing it in their pants? Like,
bit of both. Bit of column A, bit of column B.
All right, cool.
Bit of one or the other. But so before we sort of get on to my last week, which is sort of the nexus for this, all the sort of the video game stuff was the big Star Wars news this week. Does that register with you? You a video game dude, really?
Okay, so I used to be quite big on my Xbox. Years ago, like I sunk so much money and time into that, and then I hit a point where I just went, you know what? No, I think I was getting ready to sell my Xbox 360. And was just like, I can't do anything with these games. I can't play them. I paid all this money, and like, if I get a new Xbox, what's going to happen? So I just went, no, you know what? Stuff this. I'm giving it up. And then I got back into gaming for Battlefront 2. Funnily enough,
so you had to buy a whole new console.
Well, I go through these upgrade cycles where, like, I used to have every console, and then I went, all right, well, I'm going to get rid of the Xbox. I'm going to keep the PS3 at the time just because it had a Blu-ray player in it. And I was like, I'll just keep it for the Blu-ray and that's it. Then I was getting ready for Battlefront 2. This was like when they first announced the thing. I was like, all right. Well, the PS4...
Start saving my shekels.
Yeah. And the PS4 Slim was just getting ready to come out. And that's always when I buy. I get the Slim ones because those first-gen consoles, like... I don't think my apartment can actually support the physical weight of those things.
I had the original Xbox One that we got it for Christmas one year. My long story short, my parents sell farm machinery, and they have this sort of bonus system where they get points for machinery that they sell. So instead of Christmas presents, they'll go, all right, kids, you've all got X amount of points this year to spend on crap, and therefore they don't have to pick anything. We can choose what we want. And it's quite a good catalog. It's quite cool. And in the year that the Xbox came out, it was on the thing, and we had just enough points for whatever reason. They had a good year, and me and my brother were like, yeah, we'll get Xboxes. We'll get Xbox Ones. And they were these mothers. They were these huge. They were humongous.
Yeah, they're ginormous.
Like the size of an old VCR or something.
Yep, they are absolutely ginormous. And the power supply by themselves as well.
Oh,
holy
crap.
And
actually, the fan kind of carked in it, and I used it as an excuse to upgrade to an Xbox One X.
Yeah,
I'd kind of been eyeing one up, and I couldn't rationalize spending the money. And then, of course, the fans started acting. I'm like, well, I've got to
do it now. Oh, my hand's been forced.
And I gave it to a mate of mine who works in IT, and he just goes, yeah, I just pulled the fan out and put another one in. It cost me like $15 to fix. But I'd bought the Xbox One. Actually, the One X is a funny story. I was on Gumtree and some dude was selling them, and I think they were $650 retail or something. And the guy had it there for like $500, and I'm going, that's interesting. So I'm going, that's a bit weird. So I sent him a message, and when you're always on the old Gumtree, you go, hey man, would you consider $450? Which is $200 below retail. But I'm like, all right, well, and the guy's like, yeah, all right, yeah, I can do that. Like, come and meet me. Come and meet me at this address, and and I was like, the address is in Richmond. I used to live in Richmond, so I knew Richmond quite well. So I go down there, got my cash only, got the money in my hot little hand. I'm looking around at the address, and it looks like a place of business. I'm going, this is a bit weird. It's after hours, and so I text the dude. I'm like, hey, I'm here. He's like, oh yeah, come to the pub next door, and I'm out the front. And basically, he was a bouncer at the pub.
Oh, wow.
So I go to the thing, and he goes to the dude. He goes, "Oh, he's there with his mate, like the two bouncers, always two big dudes." And he goes, "Oh, I'll be back in a second." So we walk down the other street, and he walks up to this car. It's got like a little hatchback. He pulls open the back of the hatchback, and there's about 10 Xbox One sitting in the back of here. About another 10 PlayStation 4 Pros sitting in the back of this thing. He's like, Xbox One X, is that what it was? I'm like, yeah, dude. So, yeah, here you go. So he gives me the box. It's all factory sealed and everything. I'm like, all right, here's your money. I guess I'll see you later. And I just ran away. And got home. Kat's like, told the story. She's like, oh my God, that was hot, wasn't it? I'm like, I don't know anything. All I know is the guy was selling an Xbox One X on Gumtree, and that's what happened.
So what I think probably was happening was that guy was starting his own retail store, and he was just, courteous enough to say, you know what, I'm going to give this nice young man first dibs at my inventory before I open my brick and mortar official above board, definitely not stolen location. Yeah, he'll be a great promoter, maybe even an influencer one day. And, here we are, and you're talking about this guy. So,
I mean, granted, it was about a year
Marketing
ago.
done.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, with the Jedi Fall and all the stuff, it looks cool. It doesn't look... I got a bit of a Force Unleashed vibe. I think a lot of people said that. It looked fun enough. Who am I kidding? I'm probably going to get it.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the thing straight away. Just like, yep, that's it. Pre-order now.
AAA titles is... I mean, I don't buy many AAA titles. I don't buy much stuff day one. I'll either buy stuff like years after when it costs about $10, but the stuff I really want is actually quite good if the day, because a lot of the big retailers compete, so you can usually get a pretty decent price on those sort of big AAA titles on day one.
Yeah. Amazon's been killing it. Like, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was like $60 on day one, just for the standard edition. And I was like, okay, that looks
I like
about
Cowboys.
Right. Yeah, and that's been the best game I've ever played. I love it just to bits. So much that I was like, you know what, I don't want load times anymore. So when it went on sale digitally, I just bought it again.
Oh, wow.
And
Look
sold
at you,
the
money
disc.
bags.
Oh, well, I sold the disc.
I'd sold the disc. Oh,
for
move.
$40, and like the whole
mate.
extra transaction cost me extra
Xbox
$20.
One X, it flies anyway. It was just...
Yeah. But,
so I'll probably get that, but
definitely getting it. I like the gameplay trailer a lot, and like right now I'm playing not Gears of War. What am I saying? The other one that's got those initials, God of War.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I've never played a God of War game ever.
So let's spell them out pretty clearly. Like number 4, really cool, great story. If you go before that, it's just kind of like some edgelord's wet dream. Basically, if you had like a line where it was like, here is the overpowered hero, masculine man that, like bangs women and kills everything like instantly, then go another 11 steps up, and that's Kratos in like...
Kratos?
Yeah, it's his name. He's a Greek god, son of Zeus kind of thing. I played number 3 because, one, it was really cheap and it's remastered on PS4. I was like, all right, I'm going to get number 3 before I play number 4, because I heard that number 4, they changed his character a bit, and I wanted to get context because I'm big on like how characters develop and stuff. I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. I was gritting my teeth and just like, I can't believe I'm so far into this, and I am absolutely regretting it. It was one of the worst gaming experiences. It's button mashing misogyny, and it doesn't, like, I'm not easily like pushed in that direction with gaming. Like I think I have a tolerance for that because I can't
expect there's a level of it.
I expect it. This pushed me way over the line. I was like, who the hell thought that it was a good idea for you to bang Aphrodite while her nymphs watch and touch themselves and go, oh, what's he doing to her? Oh, not that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no crap.
If I was playing that in my lounge room and Kat walked in, she'd just be like, what the hell are you doing? Like what is this?
Josh, how can you play the game with one hand on the controller first? And what is on the screen? Like, it was one of those.
In the spare room.
Like, I was sitting there just dumbfounded. Like, who thought this was a great idea? And then what do you do after that? You kill her husband. It's like, this couldn't be more of a fucking red pill kind of loving game, like if you imagined it. Now, here's the kicker. The guy behind that game, Stig, whatever his name is behind Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he jumped camps. He went to another dev company. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, he's one of the main dudes that was up on the stage, and he's behind this game too. And so I didn't know that, and when the timeliness of this was kind of just, it couldn't be more perfect. I had a couple of days earlier finished God of War 3 and was like, that was awful. And then there he is. And the gameplay looks amazing. Like, I love that style of gameplay. It looks really cool. And so I'm really keen to see what happens when it's not that. But also God of War 3 is like, it's nearly however many years old now. It's quite old.
Well,
so
the Lucasfilm story group would be keeping him in line anyway. Obviously there's a lot of do's and do not do's in Star Wars anyway. So
yeah, it's like, I want to get this guy, and he's gonna have a cod piece that's a lightsaber, and they're like, you can't do that. Sorry,
no, dude, this is Lucasfilm. Yeah. We don't play that. So we sort of touched on it a minute ago that I sort of had an interesting week.
Very
interacting with some people online. I think I should just preface this before I go any further, is that this does contain sort of, me clashing with a certain group of people on the internet. And I'll use the expressions like trolls and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's sort of clear to put out that I'm a very privileged person. I come from a very privileged background. I don't really experience any issues with online abuse or anything like that, and certainly stuff and people we know who go through real stuff and have to deal with real things. I don't want to sort of make it sound like it's, oh, poor me, some people had to go at me or anything like that. Compared to what people really have to go through, this is nothing. But I'm going to just sort of tell it like I normally do, but I don't want to sort of think that I need sympathy or anything, because I certainly don't need sympathy or anything ridiculous like that. They're real people, great people we know who deal with a lot more nonsense. And, I just want to sort of put that up first so it doesn't seem weird that I'm just sort of like, oh my God, the poor guy, some people got mad at him. And, so.
Same.
Putting that out there.
I guess.
And you too.
Same.
You too.
What he said. Yeah.
Yeah. So the general gist of this, all of this is all bloody Admiral Ackbar's fault.
Admiral freaking Ackbar.
The walking meme himself. So I kind of came in late to, I think because of the time zones, as far as like Star Wars Twitter and Twitter things goes, most of the stuff that happens in Star Wars Twitter kind of happens while we're asleep, doesn't it, really? I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like I kind of refresh the old timeline on the train in the morning, and it's all kind of gone down, or you can see what's going on. You're sort of playing catch up and things, which I think is quite good, because it just means you go, oh, I'm staying out of that, or that's interesting.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the time, it's people get outraged about something, and it's kind of resolved itself by the end of it already. I think there was one the other day where the rumor went around that they weren't allowed to say younglings at Galaxy's Edge or something.
Yeah, and it was all resolved. Hello Greedo had a video out by the time I'd found out about the thing. I was like, okay, well, that was nothing.
And it been put to bed by then. You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't sit through that shit show. But anyway, so the long story short is that a fellow who was in the Admiral Ackbar suit on The Last Jedi had done an interview with somebody and said that that basically at the end of his, he didn't know that he was going to be blown up, I think, for one thing in the film. And then he kind of got to his last scene, and they said, oh, well, it's the last scene or the last thing that we're shooting on this set for the day. Let's get Admiral Ackbar up here, and he can say, it's a wrap, and that could be the end of it, and that'll be fun. And he basically said, oh, well, I didn't know I was going to get killed, and that was my last thing, and I had to go up and do this thing, and I got a little bit sad, and, that was the way that it kind of went down. And then, of course, excuse me. Some people basically use that as fuel to like, well, Ryan Johnson doesn't respect Admiral Ackbar. He doesn't respect. He humiliated that poor man. He made him stand in front of all these people and make him say his catchphrase like he's the "I didn't do it" boy. And then they pulled his pants down, and then they laughed at him. And Ryan Johnson said, "Look at that stupid old man's willy." Everybody point and laugh at him.
That was pretty much exactly what happened. Like that
and then actually,
Fish Willy, though, I think they said.
And again, a few days later, the fellow who actually interviewed him just said, "Oh no, he wasn't. You know, he wasn't really that upset. He wasn't mad at Ryan or anybody." And nowhere did it actually say that Ryan Johnson specifically did that. It was just people who were around. And I think we can all agree that if Ryan Johnson even knew that the Admiral guy in the Admiral Ackbar costume was there, he probably would have acknowledged it. I think it's a bit weird because they just sort of, they brought him back anyway. I thought that was sort of strange.
Yeah.
It was strange. It was strange that they go to all that effort, really, which is nice. You could be like, hey man, we could have put anybody in that costume, but
or they could have just not had Admiral Ackbar at all. I mean, the fact that he was even in The Force Awakens, it's an Easter egg. It's just a nice little thing. It's like, oh yeah, hey, remember Admiral Ackbar? Yeah, I remember.
Remember Barry Admiral Ackbar?
Yeah, that's all it was.
So that sort of blew over. But of course, that was fuel for the fire. That one that that Holdo is the one who saves the day, and nobody cares about Holdo, and you should have been Admiral Ackbar and this and that and that. So anyway, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that. But anyway. So I basically thought it would be hilarious to put a tweet up that people are so outraged about Admiral Ackbar, but there's a Star Tours Detours episode somewhere, I'm sure, where he basically goes, "It's a crap" instead of "It's a trap," which I don't actually know it exists. I know that one episode that kind of got out, there was a bit where he's like, "It's a snack, it's a latch, it's a." There's a whole thing where he's doing his catchphrases anyway. So I thought that was kind of funny, but basically just saying, hey man, they've never really given any reverence to Admiral Ackbar any more or less than anybody else. It's not, I don't think our buddy Steel Saunders, Steel Wars is saying, it's not like he's a real war hero. He's just a guy in a fish costume who...
Yeah, that was a good take as well. I mean, looking at that level of outrage over really just a side character. That's it. Like, he's a side character. He's
People
someone...
were less upset when they killed Han Solo.
Yeah. It's outrage of convenience.
People literally were less upset that Han Solo died.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nuts, isn't it? Like,
but they don't really care about Admiral Ackbar. It's the narrative, and we'll get onto that more.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I kind of put this thing. I'm like, oh, this is hilarious, and most people just going, ha ha, very funny. And then one dude on Twitter, I to be honest, I don't have the tweets anymore, so I'm doing verbatim. I'm not going to quote directly, but kind of, and I usually don't reply back to these things, but I had a very quiet day at work. Nothing was going on. And then basically started talking about how wonderful Admiral Ackbar was, and what a great character he was, and how disrespectful it was to get rid of him. But then of course it kind of pivoted to like, well, we didn't even want that woman to come in and steal the limelight and blah blah blah. And I got to a point where I'm kind of just. I was basically kind of baiting. Yeah, fed up. I was basically baiting him because I just started saying stuff like, "Oh, well, what do you think about Luke Skywalker, though? We all really liked what happened to Luke Skywalker, though." And then talking about characters like Rose, and then talking about other things that I kind of knew would get his shekels up. And so I was guilty of a little bit of trolling, I suppose, or just kind of knowing where the conversation was going. And then, of course, I was like, well, I'll do a bit of investigating. I'll have a look at his feed, like what he's tweeting about anyway. And, of course, there's a bit of, like, bloody Brie Larson. Where does she get off talking about stuff? Captain Marvel, this. And I kind of went, all right, well, I don't feel the need to play nicely with you, mate.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the, what is that? The sniff test. He has failed the sniff test.
Yeah.
He smells absolutely like turd.
Yeah. So then it kind of pivoted to, I don't understand, film theory, all these other movies, Disney movies are garbage. And then our buddy Matt Frost, who cannot help himself, chimed in as well and started baiting him as well. And then they started going after Frozen for some reason, and why Frozen was terrible. Which
did you tell him to let it go?
Well, Frozen in our house is number one with our 3-year-old. And I did actually say that. And then basically he kind of just insinuated that my 3-year-old is an idiot and doesn't know anything. I can't remember the exact quote, but he actually did say something like her opinion doesn't count or something like that. Basically, I'm like, I'm sorry if the 3-year-old's opinion on a Disney movie for children doesn't count. Which I kind of thought was pretty funny. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, look, I said, look, clearly we're not going to see eye to eye on this. I think I'm just going to block you. Don't take this as like thinking that you're right or you want an argument. I'm just sort of over this conversation. So that was the end of that conversation. That was done. It was a microcosm though.
Yeah. Oh, dude. God.
And he told me off for calling him dude as well, which I thought was quite funny. But then I couldn't stop calling him dude.
Did you get that? Did you find that old song from when we were kids called "Don't Call Me Dude"?
Oh, somebody tagged that. Don't worry. I think a few people we know were watching this and just thinking it was hilarious. I think one, because I just do not usually get involved in this sort of thing.
No.
And I think I've even spoken on your videos how I don't get involved in this.
Yeah. You definitely are on record in the Celebration short documentary that you are IMDb credited for now. Did you know that you're on IMDb now?
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
you're an actor.
Screen credit.
Actor.
Where's my SAG membership?
No, you gotta sort that yourself, mate. But yeah, you're on record saying that you don't get involved in that. So like watching this go down, I think I saw one of these tweets about, not so necessarily in the thread, but it was you talking about the thread in a separate tweet, and I was like, what's going on? Because I'd missed it. I don't do Twitter timeline in by time. I do it as the digest mode because of that whole overseas thing. Like I like waking up and having it surface stuff that I would otherwise miss. So, so I saw that before I saw all the kerfuffle. And so then I went and looked at the kerfuffle and was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and it was, to be honest, it was really just me messing with this person to sort of and to see if the tropes would come out, and they did, and then basically that's what kind of sparked me writing this tweet of just like, well, these are the stages of a Last Jedi troll, is that you start with this perceived slight, and then you pivot onto women, and then you talk about fandom as currency and all these kind of things like that, and basically So I put that thing up, and because I was sort of a bit, I don't know, I sort of went through an experience, I suppose, and kind of like, oh wow, the legends are true, because I don't tangle usually. So I was like, oh, well, he kind of hit all these stages and things. I kind of put the tweet up and thought, oh, that was funny. Didn't think about it, and then went to bed, and so that evening nothing really happened. It sort of, a few people liked it, and then in the morning when I woke up, a few more people had liked it and retweeted it, and it caught the eye of a certain group of fans, or non-Star Wars fans, or non-Star Wars fans. They who
shall go unnamed.
Yeah, and that's sort of where it got interesting, I guess, because some of it was quite interesting, and some of it was just, seeing your tweet get quoted and people just saying, "Oh, this person's, this is everything that's wrong with these smug." Star Wars shills and all that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then some people were calling me a liar. I was like, that's interesting, calling me a liar and stuff. And then there was a couple of people saying I didn't know anything about space. And then they were quoting me to go play some game, but I didn't even heard of the game. I didn't know what it was.
You don't know anything about space? What's the context of that?
I don't know. Maybe it was something about like how space works, or I've got to, anyway. So. And then there was a couple that sort of like go after your appearance and things like that. So I think the funny thing was that I'd only changed my profile picture probably the day before. So I'd always have a picture of me and Olive. And I'm really glad that that she wasn't up on there, before that happened. But it was a picture of me with the beanie on at Lucasfilm. So it was quite ironic. A couple of people were just like, well, you don't know anything about Star Wars. You're a fake fan. I'm like, dude, I'm literally standing in the lobby at Lucasfilm in my thing. Like, I'm literally standing at Lucasfilm.
I've made the pilgrimage. I've gone to the Holy Land. Like,
fake fan. I didn't go all this way to be a fake fan. But anyway, but then there was a couple of people.
Would you say you weren't all this way to fuck spiders?
Yeah, well, finally, because then I had a couple of people saying that I looked like a pedophile, which was lovely.
Now your glasses are really different.
Yeah, I didn't see my
either.
porno van in the background, but anyway, I don't know what they, So that was delightful. So that was just like, block, mute, whatever. I don't really care. I'll just block you. I didn't, and but then some of the responses, and I guess this is why I wanted to get you on as well, because you're a YouTube man. YouTube's your thing. So you actually kind of scoured the darkest corners and things. I think is sort of you were conscious to be sort of a positive light in YouTube, but in order to be the light, you kind of had to understand the dark. Is that a fair?
Yeah. I mean, look, I've had this conversation in little chunks here and there, and I'm going to be quite careful. I'm not going to name channels. I'm not going to name names or anything like that. I'm not interested in ever having conversations with some of these people. And I think that's kind of the approach that you seem to have. It's like, what's worth your time and what's not. And that's why it was funny just watching.
Well, I'll get to the second part of the story in a minute, but I learnt my lesson.
Yeah. But, I have gone through the swamp just to see what is in it. And it is disgusting in some respects. There are definitely great things, but yeah, you are correct. You have to understand what you are up against if you were going to get into something like YouTube.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing was the guy who I actually was engaging with, and let's face it, I was baiting him a little bit. He had some pretty bad opinions, but to be honest, he didn't have he wasn't saying stuff as bad as the things that people were replying to me the next day. He kind of got worked up, and his opinions are the things that he sort of thought, sort of the sexist stuff that sort of came out. It was there, but the stuff that sort of other people were saying the next day when you sort of talking about what a troll is and all kind of stuff, that sort of upset people more. And that was the thing I kind of wanted to get to, was that amongst all, because I'm just going through going, I'm going to block you, I'm going to mute you, I don't really care, whatever. And then there was actually a couple of interesting messages that came through from people who were just like, oh, well, the problem with this is that, you're lumping us all in with these people. Like, I just didn't like the movie, and I get attacked and called all these things, and you guys just call us a bunch of trolls and blah 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 and all this. And there's a few people who read that, and I actually went, what, I'm going to reply to these people. I'm going to see where this goes. And the first thing I actually had to say was, look, I actually used the term troll very specifically. I was talking about a troll, like hey, like, I don't like this. Like, I said, I didn't actually say anything about anybody who doesn't like the movie. Like, go nuts. If you don't like the movie,
that's them inferring it.
I said, don't, and I said, if you don't like the movie, that's absolutely fine. Like, I've got friends who don't like it. I've got relatives who don't like it. Go nuts. I think you have to make the distinction. It's quite interesting that it's just like it's such a red flag. It's like a red flag at a bull that. As soon as you sort of put that out, it was a pretty bold statement that I put up. Bold statement for Twitter, bold statement, whatever, But it was quite like, this is what you are, and these are the ways that I can tell what you are,
Yeah.
So I can understand why people would react that way. But I was kind of just like it's troll. I'm talking about the worst part of the internet here. And there was a few people who just said, hey, look, I don't consider myself this, and I said, I don't either. I'm talking about people who don't like the movie. And there was actually one person I had a good conversation with, and I think it was a lady in the end. I can't remember. I think from the picture, I don't really know for sure, because it was like a fairy or something. I don't know. And she started just talking about how she loved Luke Skywalker and how she was sort of disappointed, with Luke, how Luke turned out. And I said, oh well, I think it's this, and I think the journey is quite interesting. And we kind of talked back and forth about it and things, and it actually was quite a good conversation. It's quite civil. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. And I think they might have even followed me back in the end and said, all right, well, that's great. Didn't consider that you were that person at all. And there was a similar person as well who was a bit like, oh, I don't associate being called a troll with this. I just didn't like the movie, da 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 da. But then that sort of the conversation sort of pivoted to like, oh well, the problem is that we get. Disney openly shits on us, like, all the time.
No, they don't.
Get openly shit on by Disney. And I was like, all right, well, we're having a civil conversation here. I said, oh, that's interesting. Can you, like, when you say that, do you mean, like, the movies that are coming out? Are you talking about statements? Or something specific? And they just said, oh, no, I'm talking about, like, these kind of thing. They showed me, like, a thing about, like, Ryan Johnson, uses the term man babies, and J.J. Abrams uses it. And I said, well, talking about the people who abused Kelly Marie Tran. Like they're
Yeah.
very specifically saying that in the article. That's what they're talking about. They're not actually talking about people who don't like the thing. And then the response was like, well, Ryan Johnson just invented that anyway. He just made up that story about Kelly Marie Tran. It
God.
never. And I'm like, oh, dude, you lost me. And I just said, all right, well, you're out of here. You know?
Yeah.
And then basically the same line of questioning came down the thing. Same line of questioning, and it got to that point again of like, oh, well, Disney just openly shits on us. They're pulling down their pants, and they're pooing all over us, and a similar thing, like, was it, in what way exactly? And then these articles came up again, and I just said, oh, well, same thing. I said, well, I think they're just specifically talking about these trolls, and the dude was like, oh, well, I've got these other things. Like, have a look at this Twitter site. I get my stuff from this Twitter guy, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like, all right, I'll buy it. And I had a look at it, and it was literally like a page, like, I hate Disney is the Antichrist or whatever. And it was every time there was a Star Wars article, it was basically spun in a way to make it seem that Disney hated you. So I think the first one was like, it was the Galaxy's Edge opening. So it was, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Billy D, George Lucas, I think was there.
Yep.
Was
George Lucas and Balaga, yeah.
Yeah, so like they're there to open Disney, and it was basically like, Disney can't rely on their terrible new SWJ characters to open they gotta rely on the people who, even after they've slighted them so much that they. And I'm like, oh god. And I said, look, dude, if Galaxy's Edge, I didn't interact with the guy. But look at you go. If Galaxy's Edge had opened, and then Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Kelly Marie Tran were up there, it'd be like the nerve of them to not even invite Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford. How dare they slight our heroes? Another spit in the face of the true fans. So I basically was like, you could literally spin any Star Wars story.
Yeah.
You could spin anything. So I thought, well, I've got you here. We're going to do a little experiment. So I'm going to bring up my browser here, Matt, and I'm going to type in
Oh, you're going to put me
Star
on the
Wars.
spot.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want you to spin me round, baby, right round.
Oh, crap. Here we go. This is where I think
I'm
to
just gonna
myself,
literally click on
improv classes.
news.
I should take them.
Okay.
So are you going to give me the headline? Or
I'm going to give you literally just the headline.
Yeah.
And it says, E3, Star Wars Jedi Order makers don't want to screw up.
E3, Star Wars Jedi Order makers pandering to the left fans.
Nice. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. We're not going to do this all day. I'm just going to touch on a few of these because it's fun. Why this overlooked Star Wars planet may be key in Rise of the Skywalker.
Overlooked Star Wars planet. Okay. Overlooked Star Wars planet from brought in from Legends. Disney admits failure in world building.
Desperate to win back fans. Here we go. We'll do two more.
This is hard when it's not in your vocabulary.
I know.
I know.
When you've got
It's not how my brain works.
It still only took you 7 seconds to do.
All right, so maybe it's a little bit of how my brain works.
Actually, Star Wars Alphabet Squadron, which is a book, I believe, introduces 5 crack pilots to the galaxy.
Star Wars Alphabet Squadron furthers SJW Disney agenda. I believe the person on the cover of the Alphabet Squadron is a female, so that's an easy target right there.
Okay, this is a good one. This is the last one we'll do on this. Star Wars 9 was being edited on set, says film editor.
Star Wars 9 edited on set. Lucasfilm fails to plan trilogy.
JJ still trying to undo Ryan Johnson's mistakes
that's the obvious
fly.
one. Yeah. Oh god.
You could just go. Shower?
You could. Yeah, it kind of makes my underpants feel kind of gross. It's not cool. Is it? Like, you could spin it any way you want. It's not that difficult, and you know, I mean, look, we could talk for an hour or two about the monetization of all of this stuff and how, you know, things like YouTube work. I mean, Twitter, there is no real incentive. People are just dicks. Like, I mean, that's sort of it.
I mean, but there are, but the funny thing was that there were a few people that who sent me a thing, you know, a couple of just like, you suck.
Yeah.
You know, you're this, you're that. You know, fair enough.
I got one the other day that just said SJW bitch, and I was like, ha ha, good.
Nice. Nice.
Winning.
That, like I said, like as soon as they see, Last Jedi, it's like a red flag. It's just like, it's like, rah, they just go mental. And again, I think, and for some people, putting the term troll in there, there was no different. There's a real lack of differentiation and a real lack of basically just like, if you're criticizing anything, you're criticizing us. Like if you're criticizing the worst of us, we're going to assume that you're just criticizing us.
Yeah. So I think if you think back now, like nearly 2 years, right? I mean, this has been going on since that damn movie came out. You know, my favorite movie. But
I know, I feel weird talking about this now, which is like, it's been years. I'm like, I don't know why. Like, people are like, I don't want to hear. Like, I'm sure there's people listening to this who are like, why are you even talking about this? Yeah. But just because, like I said, I don't interact at all with this.
No.
Couldn't help myself. And now, you know.
No. But, you know, it's not a problem with the movie. And it's not a problem with fandom. I think it's a problem with discourse. So there is like you said, there is a distinct lack of ability to differentiate, to say, he is talking about the literal thing that he said, trolls. And the reason being, I think anyway, and feel free to, if you don't agree or whatever, I think it's not that, I don't think it's that these people actually have considered, thought out opinions. Now, that is a fairly blanket statement, but the internet is, and social media thrives on fast, quick digestion of repeatable information, or memes, if you would. So,
tell me about these memes.
Memes. They are pronounced memes. So you are basically looking at people who maybe can't articulate necessarily why they don't like a thing. So they turn to the internet. Now, this is, I think most people don't have necessarily like a really great cinema vocabulary or ability to say what they don't like about a thing. I think the average Joe, the average cinema goer just says, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like Luke because, you know, he was a chicken. You know, that kind of thing. You've now got the internet that can take someone's, whether it's well thought out or not, you can take their critical opinion, whatever you want to say about that, and you can now publish it. And for someone that can get angry about something and not be able to think specifically about why or articulate why, they can very easily start parroting what someone else says. And that's why when you do engage with these people, you end up going down the same holes over and over and over because it's the same articles, it's the same statements, it's the same.
There's a lot of like, you don't know anything about how to write a script. There was a lot of like, you don't understand. You're not smart enough to get this. Hey, I'm smart. You're dumb. If you don't like this, if you don't hate this like I do, you are clearly dumb because. The first thing you learn about filmmaking is this, or the first thing you learn about this and this. So there's always this kind of like, I can understand that people, it's almost like a badge of honor. It's almost like I'm in too deep. Like I'm so far deep.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That I can't pull myself out. I have to stay here, and I have to keep fighting my way through.
Yeah. And you know what? We haven't been like, if we're going to like point some fingers in both directions, right? I think that in some cases, people that like The Last Jedi have not been welcoming enough. There are definitely some people out there that have said, and I've seen it, like said statements that lump all people together, and I've literally seen it and been like, oh, you idiot! Just because you don't like Holdo does not instantly make you sexist.
Yeah, and that was a a narrative that I got a few times as well, for people just like, hey man, I didn't like this movie. Don't lump me in with these idiots.
Yeah.
But of course, I was very specific to write troll. But I think
Yeah.
there are people just like, I just didn't like I didn't like it.
Yeah. But you've got to remember, you've got on one end, you have got people with really loud mouthpieces that are blanketly stating, if you don't like the thing, you belong in our group. Now, that's where that whole like defensive inclusion stuff sort of comes into play, because you've got someone saying, hey, join us, the group, which I'm not going to say their bloody name, but if you didn't like the movie, and it's that simple. They make it that simple, that easy. We represent you. And so when you attack them as trolls, instantly it's like, oh, well, my social group is being attacked and we're all not trolls, but they're getting defensive of it anyway. Whereas on the other end, it's not as easy for us to say that, because I think we tend to come from the assumption that, well, they're the trolls and then there's everyone else that's reasonable, and we don't need to tell everyone that's reasonable that, hey, you're loved, and hey, we respect your opinions, and blah blah blah. It's assumed. Yep. We're not monetizing that. Yeah. They are.
We don't really have any skin in the game, rather than we just want to enjoy. I think it's at the same time, I can understand if people didn't like it and whatever, and they're disappointed and things, which I respect a lot more than someone who's just sort of in their little ball trying to fight a thing that's already kind of been and gone and has happened, isn't going anywhere. And hey, there's a new movie in a few months, and you know what? You might hate that one even more.
Yeah, but, or you could end up liking the second, the middle chapter more, because it's an unfinished story. Jeez,
there was one dude who I was sort of chatting to, and he he was sort of quoting these articles and stuff, and he was just going, oh, like I was so bummed. I don't think I don't think I'll even bother with episode 9. I'm like, dude, I know we don't see eye to eye on stuff, but like, go see it. Like, it would really, that actually makes me feel sad that you just you wouldn't go. Like, you might miss out on a really great movie. There's so much cool stuff. Like, just let it go, dude. Like, there's more things. You can write your own headcanon and move on. Like, if you love this thing so much that you get so worked up about one that you didn't like, why would you deprive yourself of all those potentially new things that you might like?
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. But that's the message, though. The message is, and it's reinforced over and over and over and over, that everyone's against you. You're with us. We're going to boycott. We're going to do this. The only answer is not showing up. And like, if you're hearing that, and that's the only thing that you're hearing that also supports your opinion, even if your opinion is something as simple and benign as, oh, I just didn't like the movie. If that's what else comes with it, with enough repetition, it just becomes the thing that you accept, I think.
Yeah. So there was a bit of that. I think people sort of, are drawn to that because they're just like, well, you guys are just pointing fingers at me, calling me all these other names, and so it's easy for me just to hang out with these people rather than try and mix. But I don't know. I mean, I looked at a few profiles and things, and there was a lot of, on the sort of the ones who were saying the really mean stuff, or the sort of personal things going at you personally. Like, there was a lot of similar vibes on their Twitter feeds of things of the political views and all that kind of stuff. I won't go into details exactly, but I'm sure you probably got a pretty good idea.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's sort of, I think the movie came at a very specific time in history, political discourse, and progressionism, online, all these things sort of came at a point, and it kind of became a symbol one way or another, representing things and opinions, and it's in the case of something like a Star Wars movie, it's very easy to project on.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very easy to point at something that everybody right away would know. Like, you can basically go, this thing that is huge is the reason that everything else is wrong, and that it represents everything that I'm against, for better or worse and things. So it'll be interesting to see, like, the reaction from Rise of Skywalker, actually, whether, I don't think there'll be any intention one way or another that J.J. Abrams wants that kind of attention, but I really don't feel like you can, people sort of went, people Solo didn't do very well theatrically, and some people are like, oh well, the people didn't turn up for whatever reason. Like, I still think it was just too close to the other one.
Yeah.
But people don't go to that movie and use it as an example. Like, I hated Solo, and these are all the things that are wrong with it, and blah 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 blah. Like, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
it doesn't.
put on a pedestal like
it's
that.
not the
Even though it
lightning
came
rod.
after it. No, so I'll be curious to see whether the Rise of Skywalker is a lightning rod. Can you have two? Can you have two lightning rods?
Well, absolutely. I mean, The Force Awakens was a lightning rod. I think anything that's main saga...
Not like this, though.
Not like this, but nothing was quite like where it is now. And if you look at things like an upward trajectory... There, what's the word? Upward trajectory. There's my enunciation. If you look at it that way, it was the beginning. It was the beginning of the sequel trilogy. It had backlashes and boycotts from people just because Finn is black. Like,
yeah,
come
but
on.
I feel like it like 2015 was a different world.
It
was.
was
We were living in a President Trump
start.
world, a pre-Brexit world.
Yeah, but that stuff doesn't come from nowhere, right? The groundswell's there.
But it feels like it's the way that the world sort of moves politically. This is an interesting discussion for Star Wars, but all of a sudden these movements and things that have always or people always assumed were sort of secondary, all of a sudden have come to the forefront, and people become more vocal and confident in things and feel that they can express themselves on their issues, and then you can use this thing like a Star Wars to be like, we're the majority now. We can project onto this thing that is representing the things that we're against. But I don't know. I'd like
I think
the film will always. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, how many Star Wars movies do you have to get through before it just sort of loses its not relevance, but people move on to the next thing?
Well, it depends on what the arguments are about. Like, at least from what we're seeing at the moment, it doesn't seem to matter whether it's a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie, anything by Disney, any kind of action film, or anything where there is a female protagonist. I mean, you're hearing the same sort of stuff. Maybe it scales based on the popularity of the property. Star Wars cops it a lot. Marvel is now starting to cop it a lot, funnily enough. As it's getting bigger, the troll community there is getting bigger.
Well, because everyone knows Marvel. It's another thing of just like, I can plant my thing to this big thing, and then if My Little Pony was as big as Star Wars, they'd be going after My Little Pony.
They absolutely would, and it's the same people. For the most part, the most vocal in those communities are always the same people. They're vocal against anything. It's like that. There is a particular YouTuber who is the most disingenuous, just prick that you'll ever see. He, his name I am not going to say, but he's calls himself Amazing. So that people will be able to put that together. He is absolutely disingenuous. There is nothing about what that guy says, because like you watch his videos, it's just him screaming and ranting, not even about the topic that he says that he's talking about. And then it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and that's basically his brand. That's all he does.
Sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's exhausting to watch, let alone being this guy. Like, come on. Like, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
I guess that's the other thing that gets me. I guess is it your full-time gig? Like, are you like on your Twitter waiting for some idiot from Australia to make some stupid thing about Last Jedi trolls, and then you pounce? Like, is it just sort of, I guess, like you said, you feed off the discourse, and I said I keep out of these things, and I've learnt my lesson. Again, I was kind of like, it was interesting for a minute, but I don't really want to do.
We'll see
again.
For how long.
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, if this comes out, hey, maybe we'll get a few downloads
Jesus.
though. But
Yeah.
if somebody did actually were like, hey, that idiot who made that tweet did a whole podcast about it, we need to listen to it. I hope they do actually listen to the end of it, because I think we've been pretty reasonable. Especially people who just don't like the film. It's like, hey, man, that's all right. Just come to the next one. You might like it. Like, don't worry.
You might not, and that's totally cool. Absolutely,
you've always got
cool.
the originals.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing was when I saw my cousin the other day. He was going to be on the podcast originally, but didn't work out. And this is my cousin Glyn, who got me into Star Wars, and he famously didn't like The Last Jedi, and he's still hurting. I saw him on the weekend, and I was sort of, how you going about it? And he's like, I'm gonna go tonight. I'm looking forward to it, but I still feel, hurt. And he was a big Luke guy. I think the Luke thing really hurt him the most. And I said, oh well, dude, have you seen Solo yet? Like, I think you'd really like Solo. He's like, oh, I just haven't done it. Like, I haven't gone. I'm like, oh, watch it, you'll really like it. And he's like, yeah, but you're telling me how good it is, but you liked The Last Jedi. And I'm like, yeah, but I also liked all the Star Wars movies that you love as well.
Yeah, you can like more
I
than
loved
one
all the
thing.
other ones. So don't worry, like, just go. Like, it makes me sad that you haven't gone yet. And he's like, I'll go. I just haven't, I haven't got to it.
Yeah.
But,
God, there's all these, like, people tell me EU stories all the time, and like, it's one of those things. Like, if there's 1,000 EU books out there, I guarantee you I'm not going to like every single one of them. God, even in the current... the current canon, like, I think I've read about maybe 16 of the books in the current canon. And there are a couple that are like, mwah, chef's kiss, I love this. And there are a couple there where I'm like, no, this has just bored the tits off me. But that value of me not liking the book comes from the fact that it's like, okay, well, the canon and the plot and what happens to these characters are these things. There are factoids in all of this stuff that then inform other stories. That's all I need to take away from those stories, just to have some level, not even of enjoyment, but just kind of objective, reasonable thought about that particular story that I did not enjoy otherwise. I can just be like, yep, cool. Well, what it's told me about this character is that I don't like this character because X, Y, Z. It means that this is going to happen later on, potentially, or whatever. God, if you don't like The Last Jedi, well, okay, cool. You don't have to, but know the things that happen. Be cool about it. What did Steele say? Like, love Star Wars like a child, hate it like an adult.
No,
or something, around. Or the other way around.
Yeah, that was right. No, that was right. Sorry,
that's the general message. But it's that. So take what you can from it.
I read the new Luke Skywalker comic that came out the other day, the Age of Republic one, and you know what? Wasn't very good. It was probably the worst one of them, and I was just like, oh, that's a bummer. This wasn't very. It was all over the shop. It just sort of didn't make. Yeah, I just didn't think it was very good. I'm like, oh, all right, that's a bummer. Luke's my guy, but
yeah.
Well, we'll try again next time.
Yeah, and look, it's that simple. Like, it really is that simple. One of the, especially Luke, and this is maybe going backwards a couple of steps, but like, you asked before about, is this someone's full-time deal? Do they just sit there trolling the internet, waiting for someone to bring something up? The Luke thing especially, I used to see a fair bit of it. It's kind of slowed down now, but there was a fairly condescending opinion out there. Not from any one particular person, but it gets floated around a bit. I think Brian Young did that big tweet thread about, exploring Luke's character as it evolves into The Last Jedi, and how he thinks that The Last Jedi is a great extension of old Luke, which I tend to agree with. But a lot of the retweets I saw were so condescending, and the whole thing is basically, if you don't see it this way and like Luke the way he is, well, you never understood Luke Skywalker. And equally, I'm just like, oh, piss off. Like, that's bullshit. But so what I saw off that, it had to be some of the like social media automation stuff that's out there. Like, people's response times on hashtag Luke Skywalker were seconds. And you're getting paragraphs, and it's not on topic. And I've seen this a few times. Like, I've seen
Didn't you do some analysis on the Admiral Ackbar thing?
That was more just about Google Trends, but which we can talk about. But yeah, like the comment stuff and people trolling certain words and phrases and all that stuff. Absolutely, you can do that, and it's just quick. All you have to do is set up what tags you want, and you can say, okay, cool, set up an if this then that. Someone posts with this. Paste this paragraph into a tweet and tweet it. It's that quick. And you see a lot of that stuff going on social media. And no, I'm not calling people that don't like The Last Jedi bots or Russian bots or any of that stuff. I'm saying that there are people that automate their own personal individualized statement because they can't be bothered typing it every other time. They just want to go, yep, I'm going to say that every time someone does
I've already made my bed, and my stance hasn't differed, so I can just tweet the same thing over and over, and it doesn't. Yeah.
Dude,
so I found the experience. I found engaging with a few people, who seemed like they just wanted a bit of clarity or wanted to, was interesting. It was interesting that a couple started talking, put the tinfoil hat on, started talking conspiracy, and a couple of people just went, oh well, I didn't like it, but I'll go to the next thing. But just don't lump me in with these people. Fair enough. We could probably sit here all night, dude, and talk about this. It's an interesting topic, and like I said, it's weird talking about this, about something that's been going on for 18 months, and it just seems weird to bring it up now. But it did sort of just slide into my online world. I'll get back to sort of just tweeting about my kids and boring
Peppa
stuff
Pig.
that people don't care about. Peppa Pig, yeah. I'll get back to none of this damn discourse in the Peppa Pig world. It's just a lot of the same 3 hot takes.
You wait, mate. It's coming. Don't you worry.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably.
The Pepper Menace is coming.
Now, before we sign off here, your project on YouTube is gathering a bit of steam here.
Yeah, the Road to 9.
Yeah.
Well,
where are we at now?
Let me quickly tell you an interesting one about that, because we had our first Road to 9 troll. And I made the mistake of
trolling.
Yeah, so
come on.
How you can tell a YouTube troll essentially is by reading the first and last paragraph of their essay. And literally, when I say essay, I'm not kidding, mate. Like we're talking paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs about stuff. Now, this particular set of comments was on the latest one. So at the time of recording this, the latest one is the Star Wars Explained episode on the Phantom Menace.
A little bit more exposure, having Molly and Alex involved.
Oh, yeah.
A little more high profile than us, slum dogs are used to.
Yeah, just a little bit more. But yeah, basically, the start, like the first paragraph, read as though it was custom written at that point. Everything then on, nah. And then you get to the very end, and it's literally this guy had gone through this wave of telling me how similar stuff, Lucasfilm don't know what they're doing, George Lucas didn't know how to write things, the backlash, and he was giving me this full history lesson. And you can tell that he hasn't written it originally because of the way that the lines are spaced. A lot of the times when you've got something written in a document, you paste it into the web, it double spaces your
formatting,
lines.
Yep.
It was just like that. And I was just
rookie mistake.
Yeah, rookie mistake, dickhead. But yeah, so I read the first and the last one, and I was like, this guy's talking crap. But at the end, he was basically then giving us instructions on how to do our channel better. Because apparently we'd falsely advertised. He'd inferred all this meaning to what the Road to 9 meant and thought that I'd be examining canon lore and all this sort of stuff and the EU and blah, blah, blah. I was like, how did you get that from just the words the Road to 9? How did you, the thing that he inferred...
So he was looking for a job.
Oh, mate, whatever it was. But I basically was polite, said, hey, thanks for all the feedback. The tone that we're going for is really just about how it has affected people. So we're examining... Here's the shameless plug. We're examining the rewatch order on the way up to the Road to 9 by interviewing and talking to people to just share their experience about the film, their thoughts, their feelings, how it's impacted them, influenced them. We're not, in any sense of the word, a canon lore-focused channel. If you want to know about the lore and you want to know about the canon, that's Star Wars Explained. That's what they do. There are multiple channels.
So this is an essay.
There.
He's probably trying to send this thing to Alex for a long time. I'll get him through this other of it. So he probably wrote this whole thing about Star Wars is dead. It sucks. I hate it. And P.S. Can't wait for Mandalorian.
Just bad writing was just in there. All sorts of stuff. But he lectured, and I gave the polite diplomatic response, and then I got another essay back, and I was just like, oh, why did I bother with this? Why? It was even in the filtered comments. Now, I've got really good filtering on YouTube. And my general rule is if YouTube thinks it's spam, or if they think that it should be flagged, I don't even look in those folders. So just a heads up, if you're a dick on YouTube, don't bother with me. like from here on, I'm not even going to read it. Those folders don't exist as far as I'm concerned. So,
which is funny because it's like, you know, it would probably be in your interest in a weird way to have people battling out in the comments, you know, because you get those sweet clicks. But
that's what I get.
I don't even want to invite this kind of...
No, and that is not the kind of online community I want to help curate. If it means that we grow slower, if it means that we get less views, less subscribers, and all that nonsense because we're not just letting people go nuts and like kind of hog wild in the comments, being dickheads, then I'm fine with that, because that's crap. I don't have time for that. Do you have time for that? We don't have time for that.
No,
we can talk for an hour about it, but yeah.
Hey, look, my daughter's monitor's gone off 5 times since they've been recording, but I've checked the video every time and a dummy hasn't fallen out. So, you know, all good.
We've had a good run. My cats haven't used the litter boxes. So, like, you know, I think one of them went over near it and I was like, oh, do I have to mute the mic? Go. But no.
Take that, trolls. We're on top. We're now on top of the world.
We win.
Yeah,
we are winners.
You can't beat me down. You can't bring me down. Oh, thanks, mate. Well, everybody go like and subscribe at Blue Bantha Milk Co.
On YouTube. Hit the bell icon. YouTube. What's up, guys? Sorry, I think I did that whole YouTube thing in the wrong order.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And look, it's always a pleasure having you on, mate. Thanks for stepping in at the last minute. And
anytime.
And being a guest. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Hopefully I'll be on some more of your stuff in the future. I'm sure you'll find us at in the internets.
You will. I think the next time that I want to make sure you're on is when we do the wrap up to the Road to 9 at the very least, if not before then. But yeah, so we're going to finish that off. December 22nd, we're going to do a live stream, and I want to get everyone that was on in every episode before to jump in at some point and tell us what they thought.
2 days before my birthday, so
December 24.
Yeah, so anybody listening who wants to send me presents,
anyone that wants to tell Josh he only gets combined presents is...
Oh, mate, don't get me started. Don't get me started. That's my life. Well, you can find us at StarWarsSpelledOut.com. Thanks everybody for downloading. Download numbers have been really great since post-celebration. A lot more people jumped on. A few of the guests we've had on recently have been really good at promoting that too. So it's been good. Hello to everybody who stuck around. We'll hopefully have more interesting guests coming up soon, or otherwise it'll just be me talking into the void.
And I wouldn't say I'm all that interesting, so no.
Yeah. You've already made it to the end, suckers. So joke's on you. All right, mate. Thanks a lot.
No, mate. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I'll see you soon.
See you, bud.